At this point, we've generated our put-away requests. They either came from the receiving program itself or they came from a work order completion. So we are in 4600. We see those requests. They're at a status 200. It's time for us to go ahead and process those requests. In other words, we're going to run the location selection driver. That's the R46171. So this application does a tremendous amount of work for us. This is the one that's going to take all the setup that we spent our time putting together from an item perspective, a location perspective, and it just crunches all that data and it comes back and it will give us a suggestion to put the product away in the case of these put away requests. But it does a lot more than that as well. So it's going to update the status of a request. So when a request is generated, it's at a status 200. This will move that status along depending on how we set up our UDC table and our rules around processing of requests. But typically it goes to a 220 status. And that's what we'll see in my example. So we create the suggestion. It says, I want you to put the product away in this location or these locations based on the setup that we previously did. If we so choose, it will also assign task and trip. So in other words, this 46171 calls or can call 3 other batch applications in sequence. So we first come up with the location or locations, then we do task and trip assignment, which is how many times do we need to go to that location, how many pieces are we going to move, and there may be stipulations on that. We cannot move maybe a quantity more than 2,000 pounds because none of our equipment can lift anything more than that. Or if we're talking about little push carts that our people use to put smaller products away, maybe they can only handle X amount of cases. So there could be stipulations around assigning task and trip. We can also print move tags and move slips. So if we are in a non-RF environment, one where we don't use automated devices like scanners and the guns, then we probably want to print paper documents. So in that case, we can do the move tags and the move slips and physically hand a piece of paper off to both our put away folks, our receivers, and then our picking folks as well. But we don't have to. Again, it's all determined by the process that's set up in this particular warehouse by this company. All right. We can also have the R46171 print audit reports, so it will show us how it came to the conclusion that it did as far as a put away is concerned. I eliminate this location. I eliminated this zone. I don't have any room in this location. Lots of different messages will show up on the audit report, and ultimately you will end up with a put away location, or if all else fails, it will go to the override location just because we don't have any place to put it. There are no rules or no locations that are valid. So either way, the audit report is going to tell us how it got to the conclusion that it did. And then lastly, we have Carton Recommendation. Not so much a big thing on put away as it is on picking, but the 46171 can also trigger the Carton Recommendation process. And again, we've got another video that we're going to spend a lot more time talking about Carton Recommendation. So we're going to go ahead and take that purchase order that we previously created and that we received, and now we have a request for, and we're going to run it through the R46171 and create a suggestion. So forth. This is the version we're going to focus on right here, the iLearn version. So let's start by taking a look at the processing options themselves. Okay, we have 6 tabs here. Understand that R46171 is just the beginning of the process. R46171 batch job potentially actually calls 3 other batch jobs. They just run sequentially. The first one is this task and trip creation, R46471. You don't have to run these sequentially. You can stop them. So there's a processing option here. Number 1, do you want to do immediate task and trip assignment? If you blank this out, then you would have to run R46471 separately as a separate step. And then from there, 46471 calls R46472, which is my move documents, and then R46472 can call R46473, which is printing of the tags itself. Not only does the location selection driver come back with the locations or location, it also can initiate task and trip assignment, which is the process of taking the product from, in our case, the R ... location and moving it to its final destination,
and also generating the documents that are associated with that. The first step here is immediate task and trip assignment. And yes, I am going to do that, and I am going to call the iLearn version that I previously created. Typically, when we run this from the menu, this is all happening from the inbound warehousing operations. Okay, so we'll go ahead and click on inbound warehousing operations, and this menu option here is going to be process putaway request. Notice it's not pointing to a specific version, it's just going to bring up the versions list just like we had. So then the user would come in here, select the correct version if it's not already on the task view, and then they would have the option for data selection.